What happens when you thank people for humiliating you instead of arguing back? They thought seating me at the kids' table meant I understood my place. They had no idea that the folder I opened that night had been waiting for this exact moment. Before we continue, we ask you to hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We would like to get to know our audience better. The invitation came on cream-colored cardstock. Heavy stock, the kind that whispers money before you even read the words. Harold and Monica Keller request the pleasure of your company at their autumn dinner. Black tie optional, RSVP by the 15th. Irene held it up to the kitchen light like it might reveal something hidden in the fibers. "It's just dinner," she said. I nodded. Just dinner. The way a root canal is just a dental procedure. We drove out to the Keller estate on a Saturday evening in October. The leaves had turned but hadn't started falling yet, so the trees looked like they were on fire in the low sunlight. Their driveway curved through maples and oaks for a quarter mile before the house came into view. Stone facade, columns, the kind of place that makes you check your shoes before stepping inside. Irene smoothed her dress 3 times in the car. "You look fine," I said. "I know." She kept smoothing it anyway. We weren't late. We weren't early. We walked up the stone steps at exactly 7, the time printed on the card. A server in a white jacket opened the door before we could knock. Inside, the foyer smelled like lilies and furniture polish. Voices drifted from somewhere deeper in the house, laughter that came in waves. I recognized Harold's boom, Monica's controlled alto, Trevor's smug chuckle. Monica appeared in the hallway, arms already extended. "Irene, darling, Felix, so glad you could make it." She kissed the air near Irene's cheek. She gave me a smile that didn't reach her eyes and gestured toward the dining room. "Everyone's gathering. Come, come." The dining room could seat 20 easily. Tonight it held 14. Crystal glassware caught the chandelier light and threw it around like a celebration. The main table stretched beneath an oil painting of someone's ancestor, stern-faced and judgmental. And then there was the other table, smaller, off to the side, 4 place settings instead of 10. A card at each spot. Irene saw it first. Her hand tightened on my arm. "Oh," Monica said brightly. "We thought it would be cozier this way. The main table was getting so crowded." Harold walked over, drink in hand, grin wide. "Felix, my man. You don't mind, do you? Figured you'd be more comfortable. Low maintenance, right? You've always been low maintenance." His voice carried. It was designed to carry. Heads turned. I saw Trevor lean back in his chair at the main table, watching. I saw Nadine look down at her plate, her face carefully neutral. The kids' table. That's what it was. 4 small chairs, folding napkins, no centerpiece. The kind of setup you'd give children so the adults could talk in peace. Irene's fingers dug into my arm. I looked at the card with my name on it. Looked at Harold's expectant grin, at Monica's pleasant mask, at the room full of people waiting to see what I'd do. "That's very thoughtful," I said. Harold blinked. "Really takes the pressure off," I continued. "Thank you." I pulled out my chair and sat down. Irene hesitated, then sat beside me. 2 other seats remained empty. Distant cousins, maybe, people who didn't matter enough for the main table but mattered more than me. Laughter rippled through the room. Not cruel, not quite. Just satisfied, like they'd confirmed something they already knew. Monica touched Harold's shoulder, her smile approving. "See? I told you he wouldn't mind." Dinner began. The main table received the first course, seared scallops on a bed of something green and expensive. Our table got the same thing 5 minutes later, after the servers had made their primary rounds. Conversation flowed around us. Harold held court, talking about a yacht club membership, about market trends, about people I'd never met. Trevor added commentary, playing the role of crown prince. Monica moderated with the skill of someone who'd been managing social hierarchies for decades. Nadine laughed at her father-in-law's jokes. She complimented Monica's taste. She fit in seamlessly, the way she'd learned to fit in since marrying Trevor 3 years ago. She didn't look at our table, not once. I cut my scallops into small, precise pieces. Irene barely touched hers. "You didn't have to thank him," she whispered. "Yes, I did." "Felix, it's fine." But it wasn't fine. We both knew it. This wasn't the first time. This was just the first time it had been made so visible, so deliberate, so performative. The backyard patio doors stood open, letting in cool air. I heard voices drift in from outside. Trevor's laugh, someone else's response. "Always so agreeable. Makes it easy." "Thinks he's being gracious." "Nadine's lucky he doesn't cause problems." They weren't trying to be quiet. They weren't trying to be cruel either. They were just talking, the way you talk about weather or traffic or something that doesn't really matter. I took a sip of water, set the glass down carefully. Irene's hand found mine under the table. Her fingers were cold. The main course arrived. Beef Wellington for them, chicken for us. Same presentation, different protein. A small distinction, but distinctions matter when they are designed to matter. Harold raised his glass. To family, he announced, old and new. Everyone raised their glasses, even us, even me. I smiled and drank and watched. I watched Harold's easy dominance. I watched Monica's careful orchestration. I watched Trevor's casual arrogance, the way he touched Nadine's shoulder like she was a possession he was proud of owning. I watched Nadine smile and nod and agree, and I watched the phone. One of the younger cousins, sitting at the main table, had angled her phone toward our table. Not obviously. Just a casual placement while she ate, screen facing us. The little red dot of a recording app blinked once, twice, then went solid. She was capturing this. The kids' table, the grateful father-in-law. The joke that worked because I'd played along. This would be a story later. Felix at the kids' table, so agreeable, so easy. Remember when Harold did that? And he just thanked them? Classic Felix. I set my fork down. Irene looked at me, questions in her eyes. I shook my head slightly. Not here, not now. Dessert came. Tiramisu. Same for everyone this time. A small mercy. Coffee followed. The room grew warmer, voices louder, laughter easier. Harold told a story about nearly buying the wrong vacation property. Monica corrected details. Trevor added a punchline. The table loved it. We sat at our small table and waited for it to end. When it finally did, when the evening concluded and guests began standing, stretching, gathering coats, Monica approached us again. Thank you both for coming. It meant so much to have you here. Of course, Irene said tightly. Monica kissed the air again. We should do this more often. Harold clapped me on the shoulder as we moved toward the door. See you soon, Felix. Always a pleasure. Likewise, I said. We walked to the car in silence. Irene didn't speak until we were back on the main road, the estate disappearing behind the trees. I should have said something. No. Felix, they humiliated you. I know. And you thanked them. Yes. She twisted in her seat to face me. Why? I kept my eyes on the road. The headlights carved through the dark, illuminating nothing but the next 50 feet. Because they needed to think it worked, I said. What? They needed to believe I understood my place, that I accepted it, that I was grateful for it. But you're not. No. Then what? There's a folder, I said quietly. In my office. I'm going to open it tonight. Irene stared at me. How long has it been there? A while. Felix, what's in the folder? I turned onto our street. Our house stood dark at the end of the block, small and ordinary and mine. Everything I've been waiting to use, I said. We pulled into the driveway. I turned off the engine. Silence settled around us, broken only by the tick of cooling metal. Irene touched my arm. Are you sure? I looked at her, really looked at her, at the wife who'd stood beside me for 30 years, who'd raised our daughter, who'd tried so hard to keep peace with people who saw her as a stepping stone to something better. I've never been more sure of anything in my life, I said. We went inside. Irene went upstairs. I went to my office. The folder sat exactly where I'd left it, cream-colored, unmarked, thick with paper. I'd started it 7 years ago, not long after Nadine introduced us to Trevor. I'd added to it slowly, methodically, every time something happened that made me pause, that made me think, that made me see patterns I couldn't ignore. I opened it. The first document was a patent filing, dated 1994. My name in the inventor field. Application status, granted. Transfer status, pending authorization. The second was an investment agreement, dated 1998. Signature authority, primary holder, amendment status, unenforced. The third was a timeline, my handwriting, events and dates and names connected with careful lines. I read for 2 hours. When I finished, I closed the folder and sat in the dark. Irene appeared in the doorway. Felix? It's time, I said. Monday morning I went to work like always. The plant floor hummed with the sound of heavy machinery and welding torches. Sparks flew in controlled arcs. Metal screamed against metal in the shaping presses. I'd been coming here for 32 years, and the sound still felt like home. My office was a glass box overlooking the production floor. Small, practical, filled with technical manuals and metallurgical charts. No awards on the walls, no photos of me shaking hands with executives, just the work. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. 3 emails waited in my inbox. The first was a meeting invitation, the second was a safety protocol update, the third was from Nadine. Subject line, sorry. I stared at it for a long moment, then clicked. Dad, I should have said something Saturday night. I wanted to. It's complicated here. Harold has strong opinions, and Monica's very particular about how things go. Trevor says they're just set in their ways. I know it wasn't fair. I'm sorry. Love you. I read it twice, then I closed it without responding. The phone on my desk rang. Internal line. Roared. Felix, it's Patterson. Got a second? Sure. I walked down to the engineering bay. Patterson stood over a materials analysis report, frowning. This alloy mix isn't holding. 3rd batch this week. Temperature resistance is off by 40 degrees. I looked at the numbers, looked at the composition ratios, saw the problem immediately. You're using the standard nickel content. Yeah, spec sheet says. Spec sheet's wrong for this application. You need to reduce nickel by 3% and increase chromium by 2. The thermal expansion coefficients will balance. Patterson stared at me, then at the report, then back at me. How did you? Because I wrote that spec in 1997, and I wrote it for a different temperature range. This application needs the modified version. There's a modified version? In the archives. I'll send you the file number. Patterson shook his head slowly. Felix, you're a walking encyclopedia. I just remember things. Nobody just remembers things like that. I shrugged and walked back to my office, sent him the file reference, returned to my inbox. Another email, this one from an address I didn't recognize. Subject, Harold Keller mentioned you. I opened it carefully. Mr. Roard, I'm organizing a feature article on successful family businesses in the region. Harold Keller spoke very highly of the family network and mentioned you're part of it through marriage. Would love to include some background on your role. Any availability for a brief call? I read it 3 times. Harold had mentioned me. Not to praise, to frame, to establish the hierarchy in print, just like he'd established it at the dinner table. I closed the email without responding. Lunchtime. I usually ate at my desk, but today I needed air. I drove to the cafe 3 blocks from the plant. Small place, good sandwiches, usually quiet. I ordered at the counter and sat by the window. 2 tables over, I heard familiar voices. I looked up. 3 men in business casual. I recognized one from the Keller anniversary dinner. Distant relation, part of Harold's extended network. They weren't talking quietly. Felix? Yeah, he's harmless. Nice enough guy, but not really in the same league. Metallurgy or something? Blue collar? Nadine's dad. She married way up. Trevor's got plans for that side of the family, though. Keep them close, keep them comfortable, keep them from causing problems. On smart play, guys like that, you just have to make them feel included. They don't need actual influence, just the appearance of it. Laughter, agreement. They moved on to other topics. I finished my sandwich slowly. It tasted like cardboard. The guy at the counter asked if I wanted a refill on my coffee. No, thanks. I drove back to the plant, sat in my car in the parking lot for 10 minutes, engine off, staring at nothing. The pattern was clear now, had been clear for a while, but I'd been choosing not to see it. Every family gathering where I wasn't consulted, every decision made without asking my opinion, every conversation that stopped when I entered a room, every time Irene tried to smooth things over, to keep peace, to avoid confrontation. Every time Nadine chose silence over support. The kids' table wasn't new, it was just the first time they'd made it literal. I pulled out my phone and scrolled back through text messages. Found the thread with Nadine, months of her telling me about dinners, events, parties, all phrased the same way. Trevor's parents are having people over. They'd love to see you. Not we're inviting you. Not we want you there. Just, they'd love to see you. Passive. Optional. Easy to skip without causing offense. And when I did go, I was always peripheral, always adjacent, always grateful to be included. I'd told myself it was just their way, that wealthy families had different social rules, that I needed to adapt, to be flexible, to support Nadine's new life. But support isn't supposed to feel like erasure. I started the car and drove home. Irene was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner. She looked up when I came in. You're home early. Needed to think. About? How long have you known? She set the knife down carefully. Known what? That they see me as a problem to manage, not family, not equal, just someone who needs to be kept comfortable enough to stay quiet. Irene's shoulders dropped. A while, she said softly. Why didn't you say anything? Because you were trying so hard to make it work. For Nadine. I didn't want to. I thought maybe if we just kept being patient, kept being kind, they'd eventually respect us? Yes. Irene. I know. She pressed her palms against the counter. I know that's not how it works. But what were we supposed to do? Fight them? Make Nadine choose sides? I'm not making her choose anything. Then what are you doing? I walked to the window. Our backyard was small. Chain-link fence, grass that needed mowing, nothing like the Keller estate. I'm choosing myself, I said. Irene came to stand beside me. The folder. Yes. What's in it, Felix? Really? Documentation, evidence, things I've kept track of because I'm methodical and I don't forget details, things that prove I'm not who they think I am. And you're going to use them when the time's right. To do what? I turned to face her. To make sure they understand that respect isn't optional, that competence matters more than status, that they made a very large mistake. Irene searched my face. This isn't like you. No, it's exactly like me. I'm an engineer. I solve problems. I just spent 30 years deciding whether this problem was worth solving. And now? Now I'm sure. My phone buzzed. Text message. Unknown number. Mr. Roard, this is Ruth Calder. We haven't spoken in some time. I handle some of the accounting work for the Keller family investments. I was reviewing some older files and noticed your name on several documents. Would you have time for a brief conversation? Nothing urgent. I showed Irene the message. Who's Ruth Calder? Family accountant. She manages the investment vehicle Harold set up about 15 years ago. Why is she contacting you? Because someone asked her to review files and she found my name where they didn't expect it to be. Is that good or bad? Depends on what she does next. I typed a response. Ms. Calder, happy to speak. When works for you? The reply came within seconds. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., my office downtown. I'll be there. Irene gripped my arm. Felix, are you sure about this? They seated me at the kids' table, I said quietly. Not because there wasn't room, not because it made logistical sense, because they wanted me to know where I stand, they wanted everyone to know, and they wanted me to thank them for it. So this is about revenge? No, this is about correction. What's the difference? I thought about that. Revenge is emotional. Correction is structural. They built a system where I'm irrelevant. I'm going to show them what happens when irrelevant people turn out to be load-bearing. Irene stared at me for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Okay. Okay? You're the smartest person I know, Felix. If you say this is necessary, I believe you. Just don't lose yourself in it. I won't. Promise? I promise. We stood together in the kitchen as the light faded outside. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic. My phone buzzed again. Another message. This time from an address I recognized immediately. Owen Pike. I hadn't heard from Owen in 5 years. We'd worked together in the 90s, back when I was doing contract engineering and he was building his patent law practice. Good guy. Sharp mind. Last I heard, he'd retired to Florida. Felix, long time. Heard your name come up in an unusual context recently. Patent registration inquiry. Thought you should know someone's asking questions. Call me when you can. I saved the number and pocketed my phone. What now? Irene asked. Now I make some calls, I said. And I stopped being agreeable. Tuesday afternoon, I drove downtown to Ruth Calder's office. The building was all glass and steel, the kind of place where the lobby directory listed law firms and financial consultants and nothing else. I took the elevator to the 9th floor. The reception area was minimalist. White walls, gray furniture, one piece of abstract art that probably cost more than my car. A young woman at the desk looked up and smiled. Mr. Roard? Yes. Ms. Calder's expecting you. Second door on the left. Ruth Calder's office matched the reception area. Clean lines, no clutter, a single window overlooking the street. She stood when I entered, extending her hand. Felix, thank you for coming. She was exactly as I remembered from the few times we'd met years ago. Mid-60s, silver hair cut short, sharp eyes that missed nothing. She gestured to a chair across from her desk. Coffee? Water? I'm fine, thank you. She sat and folded her hands on the desk. I'll get straight to it. I was asked to review the Keller Family Investment Trust documents. Routine audit happens every few years. I came across your name listed as secondary signature authority on several asset transfers dating back to 1998. That's correct. Harold seemed surprised when I mentioned it. I imagine he was. Ruth's eyebrow lifted slightly. He was under the impression that authority had been transferred to Trevor 3 years ago when Nadine married into the family. It wasn't. No, it wasn't. Which raises some questions about why Harold thought it was. I leaned back in the chair. Trevor presented documents at the wedding. Very official looking. Lots of signatures and legal language. They said it was just paperwork to merge family assets, make everything cleaner. Irene signed, Nadine signed, I was supposed to sign. But you didn't. I read them first. The transfer documents included language that would have reassigned my signature authority to Trevor without explicit notification. Everything I'd built into the original investment structure would have been reassigned to someone who'd known me for 6 months. So you refused. I said I needed my attorney to review them first. Then I never followed up. They asked twice. I said I was still waiting on legal advice. Eventually, they stopped asking. Ruth tapped her pen against her notepad. Do they know the transfer never completed? Apparently not. Felix, that's a significant oversight. Yes. Why didn't you tell them? Because they didn't ask. They assumed. Assumptions are powerful things. People stop checking what they think they already know. Ruth studied me for a long moment. You realize this means you still have control over approximately 40% of the trust assets. I do. And that those assets fund several of the business ventures Trevor's been building. Yes. Ruth set her pen down carefully and looked at me with something between concern and professional curiosity. Felix, I've been doing this work for a long time. I've seen family disputes over money, control, inheritance. But this is different. You've been sitting on this information for 3 years. That's not accident. That's strategy. It's documentation. Call it what you want. But if you exercise that authority now, after 3 years of silence, the implications are massive. Trevor's companies have taken on debt based on projected asset flows. They've signed contracts, made commitments to vendors and employees. If you pull funding or redirect it, you could trigger defaults across multiple entities. I understand. Do you? Because this isn't just about Harold's pride or Trevor's business plans. Real people could lose their jobs. Suppliers could go unpaid. There's a ripple effect here that goes beyond family drama. I met her eyes steadily. I've spent 3 years watching them build on a foundation they didn't own. I gave them multiple opportunities to verify, to ask questions, to treat me like someone whose input mattered. They chose not to. Now they live with the consequences of that choice. Ruth leaned back in her chair. What are you planning to do? Nothing yet. I just wanted to confirm the facts. Confirming facts usually precedes action. Usually. She was quiet for a moment, then pulled up something on her computer. The trust structure is complex. Multiple tiers of investment. Some portions are liquid, some are locked in long-term vehicles. If you wanted to exercise your authority, you'd need to be strategic about it. A blanket freeze would cause immediate chaos. A targeted approach would be more effective. Are you advising me? I'm giving you information. What you do with it is your choice. But Felix, if you're going to do this, you need to understand the full scope. The Kellers have built relationships across this region. Banking relationships, political connections, media contacts. They won't just accept this quietly. I'm counting on that. Ruth's expression shifted slightly. Not quite approval, but recognition. You want this public. I want this correct. If that happens to be public, so be it. She nodded slowly. Then you'll need documentation beyond what I can provide. You'll need legal counsel, someone who specializes in trust law and intellectual property, someone who can stand up to the kind of pressure the Kellers will bring. I have someone in mind. Good. Because once you start this, there's no walking it back. Harold Keller doesn't lose gracefully. And Monica is even more dangerous than he is. She's the one who really runs things, you know. Harold's the face, but Monica's the architect. I've noticed. Ruth stood, indicating the meeting was over. We shook hands again. For what it's worth, she said quietly, I've seen the way they talk about you at meetings. Like you're a formality. Like you're someone to be managed rather than consulted. It's not right. No, it's not. But be careful, Felix. When you corner powerful people, they don't always react rationally. Make sure you're ready for whatever comes next. I've been ready for 3 years. I left her office and sat in my car for a few minutes before starting the engine. The downtown streets were busy with lunch traffic, people moving from one place to another, focused on their own concerns, unaware that in a few weeks their comfortable assumptions about the Keller family empire would be shattered. I drove back to the plant, but instead of going to my office, I walked the production floor, watched the machinery, listened to the rhythm of industrial work. This was real, metal and heat and precision. No pretense, no social games. Just physics and chemistry and human skill. That Patterson found me near the tempering station. "Felix, you okay? You've been standing there for 10 minutes. Just thinking. About the Kellers?" I looked at him sharply. "Why would you say that?" "Because Harold was here again this morning. Gave another tour. This time he brought some banker types. I heard him talking about integrated family business networks and cross-generational wealth building. Made it sound like Trevor was some kind of genius businessman. What else did he say? That Trevor was revolutionizing industrial supply chains, using innovative approaches to metallurgy and materials science." Patterson shook his head. "Felix, Trevor doesn't know chromium from charcoal. Everything he's doing, every formula his company uses, that came from your work. But Harold's selling it like Trevor invented it. Let him sell it. Doesn't that make you angry? It makes me certain. Of what? That what I'm about to do is necessary." Patterson looked at me with concern. "Felix, whatever you're planning, just be careful. The Kellers have a lot of influence. They could make things difficult for you." "They already have. They just didn't know I was paying attention?" I walked back to my office and worked until 7. Came home to find Irene had made dinner. We ate mostly in silence. She knew something was building. I could see it in the way she watched me, the way she carefully didn't ask questions. After dinner, I went to my office and called Owen Pike. He answered on the second ring. "Felix, wow, it's been a long time." "Too long. I got your message." "Yeah, someone submitted an inquiry about patent 5847293, industrial alloy composition, filed 1994, granted 1996. Your name on it." "That's mine?" "Someone wanted to know about transfer status, whether it had been sold or licensed." "What did you tell them?" "Nothing. I don't handle that patent anymore. But it made me curious, so I looked it up. Felix, that patent's still active, and it's still registered to you." "I know." "Do you know it's being used?" "Commercial application. Someone's manufacturing with your formula." "Who?" "Company called Apex Industrial Solutions. They've been producing specialty alloys for 3 years. Their flagship product matches your patent specs exactly. I pulled their technical documentation. It's your work, Felix. Not similar, not inspired by. Identical." "Apex." I closed my eyes. "That's one of Trevor's companies." "Your son-in-law?" "Yes." Owen was quiet for a moment. "Felix, are they paying you licensing fees?" "No." "Do they have authorization to use the patent?" "No." "Then they're in violation. Significant violation. That patent's probably worth 6 figures annually in licensing alone. Over 3 years, we're talking substantial damages." "How substantial?" "Depends on their revenue, but if they're manufacturing at commercial scale, we could be looking at $500,000 in back payments. Maybe more if we can prove willful infringement." I sat back in my chair. "Owen, I need you to understand something. This isn't about the money. It never is with guys like you, but the law doesn't care about motivation. They violated your patent. That has consequences." "I know, but I need you to understand why I'm doing this. It's not revenge, it's correction." "What's the difference?" "Revenge is emotional. It's about making them hurt because they hurt you. Correction is structural. It's about fixing a system that's broken, even if fixing it causes pain." Owen was quiet for a long moment. "Felix, I've known you 20 years. You're one of the most methodical people I've ever met. If you say this is about correction, I believe you, but the Kellers won't see it that way. They'll see it as betrayal, an attack, and they'll respond accordingly. Let them." "You know what? Felix, how long have you known about the patent violation?" "About 2 years. I saw their promotional materials at a family dinner, recognized the composition immediately, did some research, confirmed it was mine, decided to wait." "Wait for what?" "The right moment. The moment when correction would be most effective, when the contrast between their assumptions and reality would be impossible to ignore." Owen laughed. Not amused, impressed. "You sneaky old engineer. You've been sitting on this, documenting everything, waiting for maximum impact. I've been documenting this. There's a difference. What do you need from me?" "A formal cease and desist, patent violation claim, timeline for response, and a damages assessment. Everything by the book, everything defensible in court if it comes to that." "When do you want to file?" "I'll let you know, soon, within the next few weeks." Felix, this is going to be ugly. Your daughter's married to this guy. I'm aware. This could destroy their relationship. Their marriage. Your relationship with her. She had chances to speak up. Multiple chances. She saw them seat me at the kids' table. She heard them talk about me like I was someone to be managed. She watched them erase my contributions while benefiting from my work. And she said nothing. She chose silence. So now you're choosing action. Yes. Owen sighed. All right. I'll draft the documents. But Felix, once this starts, there's no taking it back. You understand that? Once these papers are filed, once this becomes public record, there's no way to undo it. I've understood that for 3 years. Every day I've sat with this knowledge, I've had to decide whether to act or accept. I'm done accepting. Okay, give me a week. I'll have everything ready. Thank you, Owen. Don't thank me yet. You might end up wishing you'd let this go. I won't. I hung up and sat in my office. The plant floor had gone quiet. Night shift was smaller, more focused. The sound of machinery was different at night. Steadier, less chaotic. My phone buzzed. Text from Nadine. Trevor's parents are hosting a dinner next month. Anniversary celebration. They'd love to see you. I stared at the message. They'd love to see you. Not we're inviting you. Not we want you there. Just passive observation of what other people allegedly wanted. I typed a response. Will there be a kids' table? The 3 dots appeared. Disappeared, appeared again. Finally. Dad, please don't start. I'm not starting anything. I'm asking a direct question. It was just a seating arrangement. It was a statement. You're being oversensitive. I stopped typing. Read that last message 3 times. You're being oversensitive. The same thing she'd probably heard from Trevor, from Harold, from Monica. The same thing they'd tell each other about me later. Poor Felix. Always so oversensitive. Can't take a simple joke. I deleted my response and typed something else. I'll check my schedule. Her reply came immediately. Thank you. I set the phone down and pulled up my calendar. The anniversary celebration was scheduled for November 10th. 6 weeks away. Formal event. Multiple guests. Likely press coverage if Harold's patterns held. Perfect timing. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out the folder. Added Owen's name to the timeline. Added Ruth's confirmation about the investment authority. Added the patent information and Owen's damage assessment estimates. The documentation was getting thick. Years of careful observation compressed into paper and ink. Each page represented a moment. A slight, a dismissal, a casual erasure. Individually, they seemed small. Collectively, they formed an undeniable pattern. I heard footsteps in the hallway. Irene appeared in the doorway. It's late. I know. Are you coming to bed? Soon. She came into the office and looked at the folder spread across my desk. Is that everything? Most of it. Owen's drafting the legal documents. Ruth confirmed the investment authority. It's all coming together. Felix, are you absolutely sure about this? I looked up at her. What would you do if someone treated you the way they've treated me, if your own daughter watched it happen and said nothing? I don't know. Yes, you do. You'd want to correct it. You'd want them to understand that respect isn't optional, that you're not someone who can be managed and dismissed and seated at the kids' table while they laugh about how agreeable you are. Irene sat down in the chair across from my desk. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying I'm worried about what this will cost you, what it will cost us. It's already costing us. Every day we accept their behavior, every time we stay quiet, every time we pretend it's fine, it costs us. I'm just choosing to pay a different price, one that comes with dignity intact. She reached across the desk and took my hand. Then I'm with you, whatever happens. But promise me you won't let this turn you into something you're not. Promise me you'll stay the man who solves problems, not the man who creates them. I promise. This is about correction, not destruction. I hope you're right. So do I. The documentary crew arrived at our house on a Tuesday morning in late October. 2 cameras, 4 people, enough equipment to fill our living room. The producer, a woman named Jenna with a clipboard and a reassuring smile, explained the approach. We're telling a story about family, legacy, and success across generations. Very human, very authentic. We just want your perspective on the Keller family's journey and your role in their story. My role in their story. Not my story. Not my perspective on my own life. My role in theirs. Sounds good, I said. They set up lights, adjusted angles, clipped a microphone to my collar. The process took 20 minutes. Professional, efficient, impersonal. Irene watched from the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, her face carefully neutral. One of the camera operators, a younger guy with a beard, noticed our living room bookshelf. Engineering textbooks, materials science. You work in that field? Metallurgical engineering, 32 years. Cool. My brother's a mechanical engineer. Always says the materials guys are the unsung heroes of manufacturing. Your brother's smart. Jenna cleared her throat, redirecting attention. Okay, Felix, we're ready when you are. Just relax. Be yourself. We want this to feel natural, like a conversation. She sat across from me, just off camera, her expression warm and encouraging. Let's start simple. Tell me how you first met the Keller family. Through my daughter, Nadine. She started dating Trevor about 7 years ago. We met his parents shortly after that. And what was your first impression? They were impressive, successful, very clear about their values and their place in the community. How would you describe your relationship with them now? I paused, smiled, chose my words carefully. They're gracious hosts, very welcoming. They've made Nadine feel like part of something larger than herself. Jenna nodded, encouraging me to continue. Some people might find it challenging to join a family with such strong traditions and established dynamics. Has that been your experience? Every family has its adjustment period. The important thing is supporting your children and respecting their choices. That's very diplomatic. I'm an engineer. We solve problems. We don't create them. Jenna smiled. She thought she'd gotten what she needed. Validation. The gracious father-in-law who knew his place and accepted it with dignity. Tell me about your work. What do you do exactly? I work in metallurgical engineering, developing alloy compositions, solving materials problems, consulting on industrial applications. That sounds technical? It is, but it's also practical. Everything around us, every bridge, every building, every machine, exists because someone figured out which metals to use and how to combine them properly. Have you worked with Trevor's companies at all? I paused. This was the trap. The question designed to get me to validate Trevor's business acumen on camera. Trevor's companies work in industrial supply. There's some overlap with my field. Harold mentioned that Trevor's brought some innovative approaches to material science, family knowledge passed down, he said. Innovation comes from many sources. Jenna waited, expecting me to elaborate. When I didn't, she shifted direction. What's it like watching your daughter become part of such a successful family? Nadine's always been capable. She makes her own choices. Do you feel like you've gained a son through this marriage? I've gained perspective on different ways of doing things. Another careful non-answer. Jenna was starting to notice my evasiveness, but she couldn't quite pin down why. How do you think Harold and Monica have handled welcoming you into their family? They've been very clear about their expectations and values. That sounds positive. Clarity is always positive. Better to know where you stand than to wonder. Jenna glanced at her notes, then back at me. One more question. What do you hope for Nadine's future? For her life with Trevor? I thought about that. Really thought about it. I hope she finds her voice. I hope she learns that loyalty to family doesn't mean accepting behavior that diminishes you. I hope she understands that sometimes the people who love you need to see you stand up for yourself, even if it's uncomfortable. Jenna blinked. That's interesting. Can you expand on that? No, I think that covers it. She realized she wasn't going to get anything more. They filmed for another 40 minutes, asked about my background, my career, my thoughts on family values. I answered every question with careful neutrality. Supportive, humble, appropriate, meaningless. When they finished, Jenna thanked me warmly. This is going to be great. Really authentic perspective. The Kellers will be pleased. When does it air? We're planning a premiere event in November. Big screening, followed by a live discussion panel. Very exclusive. You'll receive an invitation, of course. Looking forward to it. They packed up their equipment. The whole process took 2 hours. When their van finally disappeared down the street, Irene came out of the kitchen. You were very careful. Yes. Everything you said was technically true, but completely meaningless. That's the point. They wanted me to validate their story. So I gave them words that sound like validation, but mean nothing. When this is over, when everything comes apart, that footage will show exactly how I behaved before I acted. Gracious, supportive, appropriate. No one will be able to say I was bitter or vindictive or looking for revenge. Irene sat down heavily on the couch. You're building a legal case. I'm building a complete picture. Facts, documentation, behavior, everything clean, everything defensible. When does it happen? Soon. I'm waiting for one more piece. The invitation to the Keller anniversary gala arrived 3 days later. Formal cardstock again. heavier than before, gold embossing that caught the light. Harold and Monica Keller request the pleasure of your company at a celebration of 40 years of marriage, family, and legacy. November 10th, 7 p.m. The Grandview Estate, black tie, RSVP by November 1st. Below, in smaller print, documentary premiere and live panel discussion to follow dinner. I showed it to Irene. This is it, I said. The gala? The stage, public event, cameras rolling. Their entire network present. Documentary playing that shows me being gracious and supportive. And then, in the middle of their celebration, everything falls apart. The timing couldn't be more perfect. Felix, are you sure? Once this happens, I'm sure. What about Nadine? That stopped me. I set the invitation down on the kitchen counter. What about her? She's going to be caught in the middle of this. Her husband, her father, her marriage, her whole life with the Kellers. She's been in the middle for 3 years. She chose a side. She chose peace? No, she chose comfort. There's a difference. Irene was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, You're angry with her. I'm disappointed. There's a difference there, too. Felix, she watched them seat me at the kids' table. She heard them talk about me like I was a charity case. She saw them erase me from their story while using my name when it was convenient. She saw them profit from my work without acknowledgement or compensation, and she said nothing. Not once, not ever. That's not choosing peace. That's choosing sides. Because she's afraid. Then she needs to learn that fear without action is just another word for complicity. Irene came to stand beside me, looking down at the invitation. What if she never forgives you? Then I'll know where I really stood. Better than wondering. Better than accepting behavior that diminishes me while hoping she'll eventually speak up. You really think this is the only way? I think 3 years of trying to be agreeable, trying to fit in, trying to support her marriage while watching them systematically erase my contributions and treat me like someone to be managed, that's enough time. Either they respect me or they don't. Either Nadine stands with me or she doesn't. But I'm done wondering. I'm done accepting. I'm done being grateful for crumbs from their table. I picked up my phone and called Owen Pike. It's time. November 10th. I need everything ready. The gala? Yes. Maximum visibility. I want it impossible to ignore. Felix, are you absolutely certain? Once we file these documents, once this becomes public, there's no walking it back. I'm certain that I'm done being grateful for humiliation. I'm certain that respect isn't negotiable. I'm certain that they built their success partly on my work without credit or compensation. And I'm certain that structures built on assumptions collapse when those assumptions get challenged. The only question is whether that collapse happens quietly or publicly. I'm choosing publicly. Why publicly? Because private correction means they can spin it, control the narrative, make themselves the victims of a difficult father-in-law who couldn't adapt to their family culture. Public correction means everyone sees the facts at once. No room for reframing, no opportunity to manage the story. Owen was quiet for a moment. All right, I'll have the documents ready. We'll file electronically at 8 p.m. that night, during their dinner service. By the time they check their phones, it'll be official public record. Perfect. Felix, this will end relationships. Possibly permanently. Business relationships, family relationships, your relationship with your daughter. Some relationships need to end, and some relationships need to be redefined on terms that include mutual respect. If Nadine's relationship with me can't survive me demanding respect, then it wasn't as strong as I thought it was. That's cold. No, that's clear. There's a difference. Owen sighed. All right, then let's finish this. I'll email you the draft documents tomorrow. Review them carefully. Make sure you're comfortable with every word. Once this starts, it's going to move fast. I will. Thank you, Owen. Don't thank me yet. You might end up wishing you'd let this go. I won't. I hung up and looked at Irene. You can stay home if you want. I'll understand. This is my fight. No. She stood up straight. If you're doing this, I'm there. We started this together. We'll finish it together. I pulled her close. Thank you. Just promise me one thing. What? That when this is over, you'll still be the man I married. The one who fixes problems. Not the one who creates them. I promise. This isn't about destruction. It's about correction. About making sure the foundation matches what's been built on top of it. Right now, they've built a mansion on sand, and they don't even know it. I'm just showing them the truth. I hope you're right. So do I. The next 2 weeks blurred together. Work during the day, preparation in the evening. Owen sent me drafts of legal documents. I reviewed them, suggested changes, confirmed details. Ruth Calder sent me copies of the investment trust structure, highlighted sections showing my retained authority. I compiled everything into a single folder, indexed and organized with engineering precision. Patterson noticed my distraction at work. "Felix, you okay? You've been somewhere else lately." "Just thinking ahead." "About?" "Load-bearing structures, and what happens when you remove one." "That's morbid." "That's engineering. Every structure has critical elements. Remove them, and the whole thing collapses. The art is knowing which elements are critical and which ones just look important." "Are we talking about buildings or people?" "Both." He looked at me with concern. "Felix, whatever's going on, just be careful. The Kellers have a lot of influence around here. I've heard Harold talking about expansion plans, new contracts. If something goes wrong, it won't go wrong. It'll go exactly as planned." That's what worries me. Nadine called twice that week, both times to confirm I was coming to the gala. Both times I said yes. She sounded relieved each time. She shouldn't have been. Trevor called once. Brief, perfunctory, the kind of call you make because you're supposed to, not because you want to. "Looking forward to seeing you, Felix. Should be a great night." "I'm sure it will be. My father's really proud of what we've built. The documentary is going to capture it all. Legacy, family, success, the whole narrative. Can't wait to see it." He laughed, easy and confident. "You know, Felix, I was worried at first. Thought you might have issues with the family dynamic, the way we do things. But you've been really great about everything, really supportive. My dad says you're low maintenance, and he means that as a compliment." "I'm sure he does. Anyway, see you at the gala. Monica's got you at a good table this time, with the extended family. Much better than last time. Not the main table. The extended family, still separate, still peripheral, but slightly elevated from the kids' table. Progress in their minds. A reward for good behavior." "Sounds perfect," I said. I hung up and added Trevor's call to my documentation. Time-stamped, recorded, everything preserved. The phrase low maintenance went into my notes with particular care. Evidence of their perception. Evidence of the hierarchy they'd created and expected me to accept. The week before the gala, Ruth Calder called me. "Felix, I need to tell you something. Not as their accountant, as someone who's watched this family for almost 20 years. "I'm listening." "They're not bad people. They're just so used to being right that they've forgotten how to consider other possibilities. Harold especially. He's built his entire identity on being the patriarch, the one who makes decisions, the one who knows best. Monica's the strategist, but Harold's the believer. He genuinely thinks his way is the right way, the only way. And when you challenge that, you're not just challenging a business structure or a social hierarchy, you're challenging his entire sense of self, his understanding of how the world works. I know. It's going to break him, not just embarrass him, break him. Maybe it needs to." Ruth sighed. "I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying be prepared for collateral damage. Monica will defend him. She always does. Trevor will follow their lead because he doesn't know how to do anything else. Nadine will be caught between loyalty to her father and loyalty to her husband. And beyond the family, there are business relationships, political connections, social networks. All of that will be affected." "I understand. Do you? Because once this starts, there's no controlling it. The Kellers have spent 40 years building their reputation. You're about to demolish it in one night. That kind of collapse creates shockwaves." "Good. Good? Yes, because maybe the shockwaves will wake people up. Maybe they'll start asking questions about all the other assumptions they've accepted. Maybe they'll realize that gracious hosts and successful businesses don't excuse treating people like they're irrelevant." Ruth was quiet for a moment. "You sound very certain." "I've had 3 years to be certain. That's enough time." "And you're still doing this?" "I am." "Why? Really, Felix, why now? Why this way?" I thought about that question, really thought about it. Because sometimes the only way to fix a broken system is to break it completely and rebuild from the foundation. And because I'm tired of being the structural element no one sees until it's gone. I've spent my career understanding how things hold together, how materials interact, how stress distributes through a structure. The Keller's empire is built on assumptions that were never verified, on work that was never credited, on authority that was never transferred. It looks solid, but it's fundamentally unstable. I'm just revealing what was always true. That's either very wise or very destructive. Time will tell, but I'm done waiting to find out. She hung up. I sat alone in my office, folder open in front of me, and wondered for a moment if I was making the right choice. Then I remembered the kids' table, the laughter, the phone camera recording my humiliation, the way Nadine had looked away, the way Trevor had touched her shoulder like she was a possession, the way Harold had clapped me on the back and called me low maintenance like it was a virtue. I closed the folder. No more wondering. The morning of November 10th, I woke at 5. Couldn't sleep. Didn't want to. The day had arrived, and I felt perfectly clear. No doubt, no hesitation, just clarity. The morning of November 10th, I woke at 5. Couldn't sleep. Didn't want to. Irene found me in the kitchen an hour later. Coffee already made, suit laid out on the guest room bed. "Today?" she said. It wasn't a question. "Today?" She poured herself coffee and sat across from me. "Are you nervous?" "No, I'm clear." "That's not the same thing." "It's better." At 9, I drove to Owen Pike's office downtown. He'd flown in from Florida 2 days earlier specifically for this. His temporary office was borrowed space in a law firm that owed him favors. Papers covered every surface. "Well, everything's ready," he said. "Patent violation documentation, cease and desist orders, investment authority confirmation, timeline of events. It's airtight, Felix. They'll have no legal recourse. And the timing? I've arranged for documents to be filed electronically at exactly 8 p.m. tonight. That's during dinner service at the gala. By the time they check their phones, it'll already be official record. No chance to prepare. No chance to spin it." "Good." Owen looked at me carefully. "Last chance to change your mind." "I'm not changing my mind. Felix, this will end relationships. Possibly permanently. Some relationships need to end." "Even with your daughter?" That question hit harder than I expected. I sat down. I don't want to lose Nadine, but I can't keep losing myself to keep her comfortable. She's an adult. She made choices. Now I'm making mine. And if she never forgives you? Then at least I'll know I stood up for myself. That has to be worth something. Owen nodded slowly. "All right, then let's finish this." We reviewed everything one more time. Documents, timeline, procedure. By noon, we were done. I drove home, showered, put on the suit Irene had selected. Black, well-fitted, appropriate for a formal gala. She emerged from the bedroom in a dark blue dress I'd never seen before. "New?" I asked. "For tonight. Figured if we're doing this, we should look the part." "You look beautiful." "You look terrifying." "Good." We ate a light lunch. Neither of us had much appetite. The afternoon dragged. I tried to read, couldn't focus, tried to watch television, couldn't sit still. At 5, Irene found me in my office, staring at the folder. "It's almost time." "I know." "Felix, whatever happens tonight, I'm with you. You know that, right?" "I know, thank you." "Don't thank me. Just promise me you'll stay human through this. Don't become the thing you're fighting against." "I won't. I'm not doing this out of cruelty. I'm doing it out of necessity." Sometimes those look the same from the outside. Then people will have to look closer. We left at 6. The drive to the Grandview estate took 40 minutes. The location was even more impressive than the Keller home. Historic property, sprawling grounds, gardens lit with thousands of small lights. Cars lined the circular drive. Valets in burgundy jackets directed traffic. Women in evening gowns and men in tuxedos moved through the entrance in clusters. We joined the flow, gave our names at the door, received table assignments, extended family table. Table 7. Not the main platform, not the kids' table either. Somewhere in between. The main ballroom was spectacular. Crystal chandeliers, silk-draped walls, a stage at one end with a screen for the documentary. Tables arranged in concentric circles around a central dance floor. Harold and Monica held court near the stage. Harold in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, Monica in champagne silk. They greeted guests with practiced warmth. I saw Trevor beside them, Nadine at his side. She looked nervous. Trevor looked proud. I checked my watch. 6:45. An hour and 15 minutes until Owen filed the documents. We found our table. 3 other couples, all part of the extended Keller network. Friendly smiles, polite introductions. Someone asked about my work. I gave brief answers. Someone else asked about retirement plans. I smiled and said I was keeping my options open. Nadine appeared beside our table. "Dad." She kissed my cheek, hugged Irene. "I'm glad you came. Wouldn't miss it." Trevor's parents are really excited about tonight. The documentary turned out great, and the anniversary toast is going to be special. I'm sure it will be. She hesitated. "Are we okay? You and me?" I looked at my daughter, at the woman she'd become, at the careful way she'd learned to navigate between her old life and her new one. We're always okay, Nadine, no matter what. She smiled, relieved, and moved back toward the main table. Irene leaned close. No matter what? I meant it. She's my daughter. I love her. But that doesn't mean I'm going to keep accepting behavior that diminishes me. You really think this won't damage your relationship? I think if our relationship can't survive me demanding respect, then it wasn't as strong as I thought it was. Dinner service began at 7. Salads, then soup, then the main course. Beef this time, prepared 3 ways depending on preference. Wine flowed freely. Conversation grew louder as alcohol loosened tongues. I ate mechanically, watched the room, saw Harold move between tables, playing the patriarch, saw Monica manage the social dynamics with subtle gestures and meaningful glances, saw Trevor bask in reflected glory. At 7:45, the servers cleared plates. Lights dimmed, the stage screen lit up, the documentary began. Professional production values, sweeping shots of the Keller properties, interviews with family members, Harold's deep voice narrating the journey from modest beginnings to regional influence. Success isn't about what you accumulate, Harold said on screen. It's about what you build, family, legacy, values that transcend generations. Monica spoke next. We've always believed in making people feel included, opening our doors, sharing our success with those around us. Trevor appeared, confident and articulate. My parents taught me that leadership means taking responsibility, making tough decisions, creating opportunities for everyone in your network. Then my segment appeared. I watched myself on the screen, speaking in our living room, microphone clipped to my collar. The Kellers are gracious hosts, very welcoming. They've made Nadine feel like part of something larger than herself. The editing made me look grateful, humble, a supporting player acknowledging his betters. The documentary continued, more family members, more success stories, a narrative of achievement and benevolence carefully constructed to inspire admiration. It ended with Harold standing in his study, surrounded by awards and photographs. At the end of the day, he said, what matters is knowing you treated people fairly, that you gave them opportunities, that you built something that will outlast you. The screen faded to black. Applause filled the ballroom. Lights came up. Harold stood, ready to speak. I checked my watch. 7:58. 2 minutes. Harold tapped his microphone, smiled at the room. Thank you all for being here tonight. 40 years is a long time, and Monica and I are grateful to have spent them surrounded by family, both born and chosen. Laughter. Agreement. We've built something special together. Not just businesses or properties, but a network of people who support each other, who lift each other up, who understand that success is meant to be shared. More applause. I felt my phone buzz in my pocket. Once, then again, then continuously. Around the room, other phones began to light up, quiet at first, then more noticeable. People glanced down, frowned, began whispering to each other. Harold continued, oblivious. Tonight I want to toast not just my beautiful wife, but everyone who's been part of this journey. Everyone who's trusted us, everyone who's... His phone buzzed. He ignored it. Trevor's phone lit up on the main table. He glanced at it. His expression changed immediately. He leaned toward Harold, whispered something urgent. Harold's smile faltered. He pulled out his phone, read the screen, went very still. The whispers grew louder. More phones, more confusion. Monica stood, took Harold's arm. They had a brief, intense conversation. Trevor joined them. All 3 checked their phones, looked at each other, looked around the room, found me. I stood, walked toward the stage. The room quieted. Harold's face had gone red. Felix, what is this? I reached the stage, faced the room, hundreds of eyes watching. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the interruption, but there's been a significant oversight in some business matters that needs immediate attention. Trevor stepped forward. Felix, this isn't the time? Actually, this is exactly the time. You see, about 3 years ago, I was presented with documents that would have transferred certain legal authorities from me to Trevor, investment control, patent rights, various business assets. I was told it was routine paperwork to merge family interests. Harold's jaw tightened. We're not discussing this here. We are, because you've spent 3 years operating under the assumption that those transfers completed, building businesses, making investments, creating ventures, all based on authority you don't actually have. Monica moved to the microphone. This is inappropriate, Felix. Whatever issue you have... It's not an issue, Monica. It's a fact. The transfer documents were never signed. The authority was never granted, which means every business decision Trevor has made using those assets has been legally unauthorized. The room erupted. People talked over each other. Phones kept buzzing. Someone near the back shouted a question I couldn't hear. Ruth Calder appeared from the crowd, tablet in hand. She looked at Harold apologetically. It's true. I confirmed it last month. The authority was never transferred. I assumed it was intentional. A family matter I shouldn't question. Harold turned on her. You knew? I mentioned it to you. You said you'd handle it. I assumed you had. You assumed. Owen Pike stepped up beside me. I hadn't seen him arrive. He placed a folder on the stage. Patent violation documents, he said clearly. Apex Industrial Solutions has been manufacturing using patented alloy compositions owned by Felix Roard. No licensing agreement, no authorization, 3 years of commercial use without compensation. Trevor's face went white. We had permission, my father said. Your father assumed, just like he assumed the investment authority had transferred, just like he assumed Felix understood his place and would stay quiet about irregularities. Harold's voice was dangerous. You're making a serious mistake, Felix. No, I'm correcting one. You seated me at the kids' table, Harold. You made it clear I was peripheral, optional, useful for validating your narrative, but not worthy of actual respect. That's not... It is. And you've been so comfortable in that assumption that you stopped checking the details. You stopped considering that maybe the agreeable father-in-law was keeping documentation, that maybe he had legal standing, that maybe gratitude isn't the same as acceptance. Monica tried to salvage something. Felix, if there's been a misunderstanding about paperwork, it's not a misunderstanding. It's a pattern. Years of treating me like I should be grateful for proximity to your success. Like my work, my competence, my contributions didn't matter, except as supporting elements to your story. I turned to face the room. The documentary you just watched shows me being gracious, supportive, humble, and I was all those things. But that didn't mean I was surrendering my rights or my dignity. It meant I was waiting for the right moment to clarify the actual structure of our relationship. Nadine pushed through the crowd, tears on her face. Dad, please stop this. I can't, honey. You're destroying everything. Trevor's business, his family's reputation, our marriage. I'm not destroying anything. I'm enforcing what was always true. The fact that it feels like destruction says more about the foundation than about me. She looked between me and Trevor, devastated. Trevor found his voice. You're doing this for revenge. Because you felt slighted. No, I'm doing this because structures built on assumptions eventually collapse. I'm just choosing when and how. Clean, legal, documented, everything by the book. Harold stepped to the front of the stage. If you think I'm going to let you, you don't have a choice. The documents are filed, the violations are documented, the authority is confirmed. What you built was impressive, Harold, but you built it partly on my work without permission and partly on resources you didn't control. That's not success. That's assumption, and assumptions fail. The room had dissolved into chaos. Arguments, ringing phones, someone already leaving to call a lawyer. I met Irene's eyes. She nodded. Time to go. As we headed for the exit, Nadine called after us. I didn't stop. Outside, the night air was sharp. Valets scrambled as guests poured out. We waited for our car. Owen stepped beside me. That was the most controlled demolition I've ever seen. It had to be clean. It was surgical. You probably ended several business ties, and maybe things with your daughter. Or maybe I finally saw what those relationships really were. Irene squeezed my hand. Our car arrived. We drove away from the Grandview estate, from the chaos, from the Keller family and their carefully built world. I never looked back.